Hello, my name is Georgianne Ford with the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation. And today, back with us, one of our attorney mediators, Debbie Schneider. Welcome back, Debbie.
Thank you, Georgianne.
Yes. Topic-wise, today, I think you're going to bring up something that people don't realize that things have really changed over the years, but where things are now when it comes to custody agreements with the parents. Fill us in on some of that.
Okay. So one of the things that we often hear in our divorce cases at the Alpha Center is we sometimes hear that a comment made by fathers that they feel like they don't have as many rights as they might like to have with regard to custody of their children. Now, this isn't true of everybody, obviously, but there are some fathers who have been told, I think, by other people, and it's just the societal perception, I think, that when it comes to their children, they're the lesser parent. The mother, their wives have a priority. And this isn't the case anymore. That is not the legal reality, but I think the perception is still very, very constant out there in society that the father somehow will not have as much access to his children after a divorce. So, this is a whole evolutionary piece in child custody. In the early and mid 20th century, the doctrine that was prevailed everywhere in all 50 states was something called the Tender Years Doctrine. And the Tender Years Doctrine was based on this notion that children under the age of 4, specifically under the age of 4, needed to be with their mothers. That was they needed to be in a nurturing environment, and nurturing was provided by the female, right? Mm-hmm. It evolved and expanded to include all the children, but certainly those under the age of 10, right? And so the default was always that the primary physical custody was given to the mother, and father had a lesser role, something we call partial physical custody. A typical schedule was father had the children every other weekend and maybe one night a week for dinner, not overnight, but just for dinner. So he could take the children out or take them to his house or take them out for dinner. And that would be their outing for the week with the children. And that was a very, very typical schedule. I mean, 30 years ago, that was pretty much the norm. Right. But what's happened is there's been a real evolution, certainly since in the last half of the 20th century, there's been a real revolution. And the Tender Years Doctrine has been replaced by something called what is in the best interest of the children. So frankly, the emphasis has been taken off the parents, who's a better parent kind of thing. And it's been placed on the children and what is in their best interest. And I think everyone now recognizes that the children need both parents.
Absolutely.
They need both parents. They need that constant in their lives. The children love both of their parents, and the parents love their children. I mean, that's pretty much a universal. And so the custody laws have evolved now to really emphasize that. So at the Alpha Center, our parenting mediators really start with a shared custody model. Now, sometimes people think shared custody means that you have to split the child or the children exactly in half. So they have to spend exactly half their time with one parent and then exactly the other half of their time with the other parent. And that's not really what shared custody means. Mm-hmm. It means that both parents want ongoing continuous contact with the children. And the custody laws built in the notion that both parents are perceived as being caring parents if they emphasize their child's custodial time with the other parent. So it's even written into the statute that it's really encouraged on everyone's part. So we see that fathers often need to be told, sometimes repeatedly, that their rights are as equal as that of the mother when it comes to custody. Now, particularly in relocation cases are a special category of child custody. And relocation means that one parent wants to relocate, wants to move out of the immediate area, and it will alter the custody of the other parent, right? And so, again, following what had been the custom for so long, if the mother had primary custody and she wanted to move, she could just move, right? It was just taken as the given that she was allowed to do that. And if the father just had to adjust. Now relocation cases say you can't do that. That's not what's done anymore, right? A judge in a relocation case, a judge has to make a determination about whether or not that relocation is justified. And they're not always justified. They're not always given, the go-ahead to say, okay, sure, you can relocate. So that's really also a reflection of the emphasis now on the rights of both parties, right? The rights of both parties and the reflection of the recognition that, both parents need to be involved in their children's lives. So it's really been a wonderful, welcome, I think, evolution in divorce and child custody. Because fathers no longer need to ever feel a sense that they are the lesser parent and that somehow the mother has greater rights to the children than they do.
Right. Well, that was good clarity. Thank you. The other thing is that I like that you shared that shared custody can look different. It's not just one model.
There's not just one model. I mean, as a practical matter, how it looks specifically is largely dependent on the children's ages, the children's needs, their schedules. I mean, the schedule of a 4-year-old is very different from the schedule of a 12-year-old, right? Typically. And built into that also is the recognition that the parents' schedules are a big part of this, their work schedules, the demands they have on their time. It may be that if someone one parent is in an extremely demanding schedule, their work schedule is extremely demanding for whatever reason, then, the other parent may have more custodial time with the children. But that doesn't necessarily mean that parent is the lesser parent. It doesn't mean that at all, in fact.
Well, what I really like is the Alpha Center backs up that whole concept of
we do
in the best interest of the children.
Right. And we really try to emphasize if we have any contact with any father and he's expressing concern that somehow he will lose his kids in this divorce, we really, really go out of our way to make sure that he understands that's not the case at all. No one's going to suggest that, and no one is even going to tolerate the notion that he is somehow the lesser parent.
Very nice to hear. Also, just to know the comfort that you would bring with that, with being able to talk about, that's how we can get to mediation, is knowing that we're safe environment.
Right, exactly.
Debbie, thanks for bringing up this topic and really making the fathers out there feel like maybe there's things they didn't know before, but that we at the Alpha Center all believe that they have the equal rights and that these things can be worked out in the best interest of the children.
Absolutely.
Right. So thank you for coming, and we look forward to having you back. And if anybody has any questions for Debbie about this topic or questions in general for anybody at the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation, please call us at 1-800-310-9085. We would look forward to hearing from you and answering your questions.